welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're zeroing in on something pretty significant happening in crypto.
Right. It's about the U.S. Senate and this recent procedural vote they took.
Exactly, on the Genius Act. That's the bill aimed at regulating stablecoins. We've looked at the news reports, covering the vote, the bill details.
And our mission today, for you listening, is really to unpack this. What's the core of this development? Why now? What are people arguing about?
Yeah, and we'll do it without getting totally bogged down in, the super technical stuff.
Definitely not. This isn't about the code. It's about how the U.S. government is starting to grapple with this financial tech. We'll look at why the bill's moving, what it actually does, and, where the disagreements still lie.
Okay, let's jump right in then. The procedural vote. So the reports say the Senate moved the Genius Act forward, 66-32. That was May 19th. For anyone who doesn't follow Senate rules closely, what does a vote like that actually mean?
Well, this specific vote, it's called a motion to invoke cloture, and it's actually a pretty big deal. Think of it like the Senate saying, all right, enough talking about talking. Let's actually get ready to vote on the real thing.
So paving the way for a proper debate and vote on the bill itself.
Exactly. Getting that kind of majority, 66 votes, it shows there's some real bipartisan interest here. It moves the bill to the Senate floor for actual debate.
Right. But it wasn't like a straight path to get here, was it? I remember reading about an earlier attempt that stalled.
That's right, yeah. An earlier try to advance the bill got blocked. Some Democratic senators put the brakes on.
And why was that? What were the concerns then?
The stated reasons revolved around potential conflicts of interest, specifically concerns linked to former President Trump and his various crypto activities, plus some hesitation about the anti-money laundering parts of the bill.
Interesting. So something must have changed for this vote to pass.
Yeah.
We saw Senators Mark Warner, Adam Schiff, Ruben Gay go Democrats. They flipped their votes this time.
That's the key shift, absolutely. You had Republican Senator Cynthia Lummis, who's a big supporter of this bill, saying she was hopeful it could even pass by Memorial Day, May 26th.
That seems ambitious.
Maybe a tight timeline, yeah. But the fact these senators changed their votes, it suggests maybe some concerns were addressed, or perhaps there was a strategic shift. Senator Warner actually gave a statement that gives us some insight.
Oh, yeah. What was his perspective?
He didn't dismiss the concerns about Trump's crypto stuff. He acknowledged them.
Okay.
But he also talked about a bigger picture, a kind of strategic need for the U.S. to be involved in shaping blockchain technology.
The leader be left behind argument.
Sort of, yeah. His point was, if the U.S. doesn't lead, others will. And their rules might not align with, U.S. interests or democratic values. It's a more pragmatic view, focusing on U.S. leadership in this tech space.
That makes sense strategically.
Yeah.
But not everyone's on board with that logic, are they? Senator Elizabeth Warren, for instance, she's still very much opposed.
Oh, absolutely. Senator Warren has been a consistent critic of crypto, and she came out strongly against the Genius Act moving forward.
What's her main argument against it?
Her core point is that the bill, as it stands, doesn't do enough to address what she called Trump's blatant crypto corruption.
Okay, blatant crypto corruption.
Yeah.
What specific things is she pointing to there?
She mentioned the various crypto projects that Trump and his family have launched, things like memecoins, some crypto platform, even a crypto mining company.
Right.
And specifically their stablecoin, USD1. She noted that CoinGecko data actually ranks it as the 7th largest stablecoin by value, which is, pretty significant growth.
7th largest already. Wow.
Yeah. So her worry is that they've already made a lot of money from these things and could stand to gain even more if this particular bill regulating the stablecoin market they're now part of becomes law.
So it boils down to a concern about a potential conflict of interest, that the rules might inadvertently benefit someone with significant political ties.
That's precisely it. She sees this fundamental conflict, and she argues the current bill doesn't fix it. It really raises that tricky question, How do you write laws for new tech when politically connected people are already involved? How strong do the safeguards need to be?
A tough balancing act. Okay, so we've got the momentum, the politics, the pushback. Let's get into the actual Genius Act. What is it supposed to do?
So Senator Bill Hagerty introduced it back in February. Its main goal is to bring regulation to the stablecoin market. And that market's pretty big, nearly $250 billion.
Mostly dominated by Tether and USDC, right?
Primarily, yeah. USDT and USDC are the big players. The Act wants to put some guardrails around them and any others.
And what kind of guardrails? What are the key rules it would set up?
Okay, there are a few main requirements. First, and this is a big one, stablecoins have to be fully backed.
Meaning $1 in reserve for every $1 stablecoin out there.
Exactly, one-to-one backing. The idea is to make sure they're actually stable and redeemable, prevent bank-run type situations we've sometimes seen. Second, they'd need regular security audits.
Makes sense. Check if they're secure, if the reserves are really there.
Right. And third, issuers would need approval, either from federal regulators or state ones.
So bringing them formally into the regulated financial system in a way.
That's the goal. Plus, the bill says only licensed companies could issue stablecoins. Another layer of control.
Okay. Anything else, Major?
Yeah, one more important point. It puts restrictions on algorithmic stablecoins.
The ones that aren't backed by actual reserves but use code to hold their value. Those have had some spectacular failures.
Precisely. They try to maintain value using algorithms and market incentives, not cash reserves. History shows they can be very volatile, so the Act wants to limit them.
Gotcha. And this bill, it didn't just appear out of nowhere, did it? There's some legislative history.
That's right. Senator Hagerty's bill, this Genius Act, it actually builds on earlier work. There's a discussion draft he submitted for a bill from former Representative Patrick McHenry last October, the Clarity for Payment Stablecoins Act.
So these ideas have been circulating in Congress for a little while now.
Yes, they've been developing it. It's not completely brand new.
Okay, so looking at everything, it really feels like there's this core tension. On one hand, a clear desire, maybe even a need, to regulate this big, growing financial sector.
Right. Bring some order, protect consumers, ensure stability.
But on the other hand, these very real concerns about, potential conflicts of interest, unintended consequences, who might benefit unfairly from the specific rules they choose.
That sums it up perfectly. It's that classic balancing act. How do you encourage innovation in something like digital assets while also making sure people are protected and the system isn't used for illicit stuff? This vote is just one step on that tightrope.
So let's just quickly recap. The Senate pushed the Genius Act forward procedurally. This happened after an earlier block driven by concerns mainly about Trump's crypto activities.
Right, but key Democrats changed their votes, allowing it to proceed. Senator Lummis is hopeful. Senator Warren is still strongly opposed, focusing on those conflict of interest worries.
And the bill itself. It wants to regulate stablecoins requiring full backing, audits, licenses, regulatory approval, and it restricts those algorithmic ones. Next up is the actual debate on the Senate floor.
That's the gist of it. The fact it's even reached this stage, it really signals that momentum is building towards some kind of formal stablecoin regulation in the U.S.
So for you, the listener, the big takeaway is that the U.S. is actively moving down the path of regulating stablecoins. And that could have really significant effects on digital finance down the road. Maybe something to think about is that balance we mentioned. Fostering innovation versus protecting consumers and preventing crime. How might the specific regulations they eventually land on for stablecoins end up shaping how widely cryptocurrencies are adopted and used, in everyday life in the coming years?
It's a crucial question. The details really matter here.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.